This is a radio broadcast from the Good Boys Gone Bland. Seek shelter now. Hello and welcome to Good Boys Gone Bland, Season 7, Episode 8, The End of Evangelion. I'm Denali.
I'm Ryan.
I am a giant robot, Jace.
Sorry, it's me. Okay, great. The giant robot Jace, we've switched him on. Great. So, Jace, can you just run back what your mission is again for me, please?
Would you like Jace to answer as he is piloting Mecha Jace? Or would you like Mecha Jace's?
Yeah, that's great, Mecha Jace. I'm going to actually ask the pilot Jace. I think we're going to get some confusion. So when I say Jace, I mean the pilot who's driving it. So Jace, can you hear me in there?
Yeah.
Sir, our robot is at 90% power.
We're going to have to...
our robot is at 92% power.
It's powering up?
Okay,
Sir, our robot is at 95% power.
Okay, Jenkins, that's great. Thanks for the updates. I can see the loading screen. I just wanted to get confirmation of the mission before the mecha powers up.
Yeah, what are we at now?
Oh, we're at 99% power, sir.
We can almost start the mission reviewing this movie.
It says loading.
There it is.
The wheel's spinning.
We're reviewing this movie. The three of us are all mech suit warriors, and we're getting ready to review this movie. And that was the metaphor we crafted for you guys, our fans. And this is, I think, this is a unique episode in our season, but I think in our podcast as well. I would say we are reviewing the thrilling conclusion of a beloved anime. And you know, this is an episode for all the gamers and anime fans. You know, now we can go completely mask off and get into some real fucking nerdy shit, you know, because the audience here, like, this is the real shit. Like, I'm talking like deep Master Chief lore and anime tips we can go over in this episode. We don't have to hold back and pretend we're the normal cool guys we are in those previous episodes.
Denali, I think you're like actually legitimately the lore master of the, I mean, like,
yeah,
Ryan
He's
got
the lore master, but like I'm curious, the three of us, where our like anime kind of comfort level
you want our
is.
resumes, huh? You want our anime resumes?
Right.
Okay, Ryan, start at the beginning of your career.
Well, okay, so in 2012, I saw 3 episodes of Death Note.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, and then
In 2012.
yeah, so I don't have a lot. I have some. I've seen a few different
that was
series.
it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, I've seen a few different series. But I also watched this. I tried to watch this series, but I didn't finish it. And I'm wondering how long ago I stopped watching, or like how far in the series I got, because what I was watching was not what happened in this movie, like, at all.
Okay, we got to get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that later, but you stopped watching before the like a light switch, you know, kind of gets flipped.
Yeah, 45 minutes into this movie.
Okay, so
that's
how
the
many
second
episodes
of the light switches?
Yeah, how many episodes in did you make it?
I think probably like 10 or 15.
Okay, that's pretty good. Like halfway
Maybe
through,
not,
basically.
because if something happens around then, maybe less than that, because like it's so, like, when I was watching, it was just like, oh, we got a giant robot because there's a giant alien and now they're gonna fight, like I would do with my Power Ranger action figures in my room when I was a kid. Like, that was it. Well, there was some weird teenage stuff, but like,
right.
When were you watching? When do you think? How
this
old
was
were
not
you?
too long ago. This was really like in the last 5
man.
years or so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ryan, similarly, I mean, I think I'm probably in the middle ground, actually, between you and Jace. I grew up watching Toonami, like a lot of kids around our age, in the 2000s, so I did watch, like, Sailor Moon, and I watched Digimon, and I watched, you know, Rurouni Kenshin and stuff. This particular anime I never got around to seeing. I think I saw, like, 1 episode, and that was, like Ryan, like, years and years ago. I don't remember shit about this thing. And then I watched a lot of Korean anime growing up as, like, a little kid, but that didn't impart like a ton on me. Just like, I don't really remember anything. It's always something I meant to dip my toes back into. I'm anime curious, but never really got full on as an adult.
Is it me now? Is it my turn?
Yeah, you can just admit as much as you want to admit about.
So my older stepbrother, Lauren, was very into anime. We would go to, I think it was Bosco's. Boscov's.
Oh, the trading card place?
Yeah, and I would like whenever we were in Anchorage, and I would buy the serialized Shonen Jump so I could read
sick.
any of the shonen. What was ever being published in there. I think the biggest thing about anime for me is that like, and me being a fan, is I will watch it, I will digest what happens, but like there are the fans that that like know the name of every character in a show. If we had Taylor or Yubi on, I can mention I'm rewatching Bleach right now because Thousand Year Blood War just came out, and I'll be like, oh man, should I watch this arc that is episodes 82 to 104 that's filler? And I called him. He hasn't watched Bleach and dear God, I don't know how long. He'll be like, oh, you should really, I don't think you really need to watch it, but this character, and this character, I really like them in that arc. And I'm like, where is that stored in your brain? How do you remember that? I specifically remember having a conversation with someone, be like, oh, I'm watching My Hero Academia with Yuri. We're on like episode 112, which was, I think, caught up at the time. And somebody was like, oh man, yeah, I really love insert main character's name. And I was like, oh fuck, which one is that? so like I'm a fake.
But you've gotten the hours in. Like you definitely have like your pilot's license for anime.
Yes.
Like you know your shit and you're familiar with the tone, right? That's interesting about Taylor because I know Taylor as well. Maybe for a future anime movie we watch, we can have him on as a guest. Maybe we need an expert up in here because I think this was an interesting experiment. We have 3 people who've probably watched out of the 3 of us. Like you've watched the whole thing, right, Jace, of Neon Genesis?
I think I might have watched it when I was younger. If I did watch it, it was like before I was 14, I would say.
So this is going to go great. I can already tell. But to appease kind of like the nerdy fans, I figured we can kind of do some fan service because there's going to be a lot of new listeners with this episode. It's going to be people who've never dropped in on the GBGB's brand. That stands for Good Boys Gone Bland. Okay, that's our podcast that you're listening to right now.
We're going way basic.
We're going way basic, and I just figured I've got some nerdy discussion questions that'll help the nerds kind of get into our podcast and figure out our personalities. So just to get the juices flowing, I have, who would win in a fight, Blastoise or Kratos?
So Blastoise is the Pokemon.
Yes, correct. The turtle with cannons.
And
Kratos is the guy from the God of War video games?
The strong man with blades,
that kills multiple gods and steals their weapon, turns them into...
Can he swim? Does he swim in the video games?
Oh, that's a good point. I don't think he ever swims.
Well,
Blastoise.
This giant turtle has 2 giant water cannons.
Yeah. So he, I've also never seen Kratos like really drink water because like my first defense is obvious where it's like he gets blasted with a water cannon and then he can drink it faster than the Blastoise is spraying it out. And the Blastoise is like, oh, I got to increase my stream. And then he's like drinking it faster than Blastoise can spray the water out. And then Blastoise turns into a raisin and dies.
Yeah.
Wow, that's anime AF.
I think Kratos might have maybe beat the shit out of Poseidon at some point, which means that, Blastoise is just another seafaring creature at that point.
That's a fair point.
He do have a big shell. And he's pretty strong defense. I think the best defense in the Pokemon Kingdom as far as Gen 1 goes. One thing I do want to mention about Blastoise is I think he's like 4 feet tall. Like, let me just look up how tall is Blastoise real quick. Because it's not as tall as I thought it was.
I want to make clear, too, that he can get like really easily killed by a little electric mouse. So...
Oh, shit.
If Kratos has a taser... Yeah.
If Kratos has his son who shoots those electric arrows, I think Blastoise would be fucked. But in a 1-on-1, just kind of like no weapons or anything, I feel like it would be a fair fight. Blastoise is 5'3", and I think Kratos is like 8 feet tall. So
yeah, so that's kind of one-sided there, huh?
Okay, not the same weight division. Are we leaning towards Kratos on this one?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a right answer? Are you going to reveal the truth?
Yeah, the answer is Kratos.
Oh, good. Oof.
Yeah, so the next question, good job, guys. 1 point for all of us. Who would win in a fight? Batman or Tahu, the leader of the Toa faction in Bionicle?
Tahu.
Oh, gosh. I was like, who the hell is Tahu? But you say Bionicle, and I'm just imagining a Bionicle. I don't know enough to know the names.
Okay, so Tahu is like the fire type.
He's a
What color?
tornado of fire, bro.
He's red.
He's the red one, and this
Okay,
is
what were his weapons?
Okay, he has like a fire blade, like
Okay,
a fire sword blade.
I'm imagining it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
he
definitely
has,
the guy with the robot with the fire sword blade.
yeah, he's pretty strong.
Gonna beat up
And
a
then
ripped billionaire.
Yeah, but Tahu doesn't have a job and has no money to speak of. So I think that's going to hurt him too, like living in Batman's world. Like,
Yeah, he's not gonna be able to get an
Oh,
apartment.
yeah.
Does he have
Whose
any
world
references?
do they fight in?
yeah, so that's huge,
So
right?
we're automatically assuming that Tahu fights in Gotham.
Yeah, so let's
There
say
are probably
Tahu,
scarier bad guys than
a Bionicle.
than a
I would be fucking terrified if I saw a mecha skeleton show up in an alleyway with a flame sword.
Don't they already have that?
Probably
like, in Gotham.
To some extent, yes. But Tahu, he can't get an apartment like we said.
Mm-hmm.
He can't get any food. There's no Bionicle food at all. So he's on a timer here to kill Batman and get the fuck out. Otherwise he'll starve to death, I think. And Batman's got tons of money. But alternatively, if Batman goes to Bionicle World, he can't eat Legos. So it depends on what I think what
It's home field advantage is the determining factor.
So that's the huge thing. Okay, what if food, money was not a factor? These two guys are just fighting hand to hand. Batman has all his gadgets, and let's say prep time as well. Both of them get equal amounts of prep time.
I think Batman has a little. This is
Yeah.
Batman's alley. Yeah,
Yeah, I think Batman
got
can
smoke bombs and stuff.
yeah.
I'm imagining, what does Batman have? I don't know. Smoke bombs. Some wire. He can
shark
do some.
repellent.
Yes, he can. He's got little boomerangs and stuff.
Yeah, like Tahu's like, "Where are you, you motherfucker?" Like when he does the smoke bomb. I'm just like imagining like the rated R movie, and
Isn't he like the good boy of the bunch?
Tahu's kind of like the hothead of the Toa.
Okay.
Like they're like, "Yo, Tahu, like calm down," and he's like, "No, I'm gonna fuck him up, you fuckers." And that's like, and Tahu is just like a crazy loose cannon. But like maybe Batman can throw a batarang and knock his mask off because
Yeah.
People
that's a
hate
source
when
of
that
so
happens
much
in
of his
Batman
power.
world.
And if Batman gets his mask off too, he's kind of screwed as well in a different way.
Because people will know who he is.
So like, and how
That's-
hot's the flame sword? Like
Yeah, I touched it all the time as a kid, and it was never burned me.
my other Bionicles beat the shit out of Tahu. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you ever
it's
do
Batman.
Bionicle? You ever do Bionicle fights with the gears?
I had
And
the
see who
chicken
can-
ones where their heads
yeah.
extended, and I'd be like,
yeah, what were those?
The Bo Rock.
Like some. Were they like? Were they pets? I don't understand.
No, the Bo Rock were evil beings after Makuta fell, and they have these
See,
parasitic
this
masks.
is what
Okay,
I
I
mean.
think
I loved
okay, I think-
Bionicle, and then some nerd ass book jockey like this comes in, and I
Yeah.
feel defensive, because you're
Okay.
hurting me with your knowledge.
I also think I've gotten negative feedback before about how
Oh my-
often we
again?
talk about Bionicles on this podcast.
Again with the Bionicle hate. Okay, I just figured it would be equal playing ground because, Ryan, you've read Batman comics. You know Batman.
What are you talking about?
Didn't you read Court of Owls? And
Whoa, I've never done such a thing.
this is a nerd podcast. We're allowed to come out in the open right now. Okay? Okay. Does Tahu? I'm gonna say Tahu wins.
We got to go with Batman, unfortunately. I want it to be Tahu, but
Okay, fine. All right, let's move on. Burning content here. Okay.
wait, what was the answer?
Oh, it's Tahu. I just googled it.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think. Well, they said is that Tahu can replace his body with different parts, so he can replace his body with the anti-Batman gun. So
that
A
one's pretty
gun.
powerful.
A normal
so-
gun.
but it's like a gun that kills Batman really easily and good fast.
Do they have that in Motonui? Like, is that a...
Yeah, it's like a part that comes with the Motunui set is the Batman gun. So that's there. And then let's do a last question. So with who? Okay, this is the last nerd question. Who would win in a fight? The Avengers or 10 Ben 10s?
What does Ben 10 do?
So Ben Tennyson is a young boy with a watch. It's called the Omnitrix, and it turns him into 10 different aliens.
Yeah.
So that was
Okay.
like an old anime that we grew up with. Ryan, did you not see Ben 10?
No, I'm not trying to downplay or anything. I don't know a single thing about Ben 10.
I believe that
Just Google Ben 10, Ryan, and just Google Ben 10 monsters.
Ben 10 monsters?
If you say right now that you literally have no idea who Ben 10 is, and we've made so many Ben 10 references on this, it just makes me wonder what you're thinking about when we say that.
Yeah, when that episode where we gave the Ben Affleck season, in Ben Affleck season, we gave 10 out of 10s. We called it the Omnitrix because it was a Ben 10.
Ryan didn't know what you were talking about.
Is that what that means?
That comedy gold just went right over your head.
I did not know that. Yeah, you guys. How often do you make Ben 10 references that I just don't get?
I'm going to guess in the 75 episodes that we've had that there have been at least 15 Ben 10 references.
What?
Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing of it.
We should do a Ben 10 season where we just kind of watch the OG series.
So hold on. So it says Ben's transform. It says Ben 10.
Can I postulate here?
Ben 10,000?
Is that the new one? So
I think that's a new one.
I believe that the Omnitrix, right? It takes alien DNA, it transforms him into them, but doesn't it like transform him into like the most battle ready, advanced like form of that alien?
Yeah, like he won't like turn into like an accountant version of Forearms, like who doesn't want to kick some ass.
He's like the buffest version of Forearms. So yeah, I think 10 Ben 10s.
I think if he turned into like someone like gray matter and he could hijack Tony Stark's Iron Man suit and he's like, whoa, guys, I can't control it. And then he starts shooting his own Avengers friends. That'd be pretty screwed. Pretty screwed.
Yeah, I have absolutely no clue. I'm sorry to say this.
Ryan,
some of them look cool.
Yeah.
There's this guy that's a fireball.
Cool? Okay, Heat Blast.
He's cool. There's a guy named Humongosaur. Whoa.
No, are you looking in the later seasons? Don't look at Alien Force. Look at introduced in the original.
I'm on a freaking fandom. What else? This is your holy grail.
Can you think of just look at a monster who's in the original series of Ben 10, Ryan? Just anything that looks interesting to you.
Okay, Stinkfly. He's funny looking. Yeah,
Stinkfly. That's a good one. He apparently, I don't really remember what this guy does. He has claws for hands. And he has a very strong sense of smell. And his quote is that, I sense an elderly man.
Yes. I want him. I pretty much am him.
Okay. I think Stinkfly can beat the Falcon maybe in a flying battle.
Oh, hell yeah. This dude? Yeah, totally. Also, I'm not big on the Avengers, by the way. I don't really give a shit about them. And Hawkeye, total loser, right? He just a dude with a bow.
But he's like super good with the bow. Like he can do some trick shots.
So what? Give him a fucking gun.
Iron Man can't shoot a bow.
He doesn't need to. He skipped over that 6,000 years of human history for a reason.
It's the little bit of grounded realism of one
There's also
guy
isn't a dude with
really
a rock attached to a stick.
Ryan hates Daredevil because he just hears good.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just a real guy who hears good and knows martial arts. What? Fuck the guy that shoots arrows.
No, Daredevil's cool.
Okay.
They're just normal dudes who are kind of good at things.
Captain America just lifts and takes steroids.
Yeah.
What?
Hero.
I like Upgrade, who's made of liquid metal, and he can take over any machine.
Okay, so I'm going to say Ben 10.
Okay, it's unanimous, and I actually did just Google it, and it is Ben 10 who will win the fight against the Avengers.
Excuse me, are you literally Googling who would win in a fight, the Avengers or Ben 10, and somebody's answered that question on like Quora or something?
Nope, it's the first result in Google.
There's a little box for it.
The Mark Zuckerberg from himself. So
that's the fucking source.
That's the answer. Yeah, so I mean this movie we saw is a robot movie, right?
It's mecha. Yep,
it's a mecha, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have a favorite like robot or like a favorite depiction of robots?
The Terminator.
Oh, the Terminator. That's a pretty good robot.
That's a That's not like classically mecha though. So what's your question?
Said robot.
Yeah, I said robot. You can choose. We can choose it into mecha, but we're kind of narrowing the field a little bit because Ryan and I haven't seen a ton of anime.
Okay.
Oh, Mecha Godzilla.
Oh yeah, Mecha Godzilla, where they built one, and he's just as strong.
And then there's like Space Godzilla too, and he's like almost a robot. And then there's like King Ghidorah robot version. Yeah.
Mecha King Ghidorah. I mean, I think my favorite robot's probably R2-D2. Just going back.
Wait, I got shit for picking the Terminator, and he doesn't get shit for picking R2-D2.
I didn't give you shit for Terminator. R2-D2 is a great fucking robot. He's a droid. He's smart as shit, and he's like, what, 90 years old
Okay.
by the time
Here's
Force
what I don't
Awakens
get
comes
about
around?
R2D2.
Okay.
Let him talk, right?
He talks in his
Let
own
him
language.
talk. Just give him a speaker. Like, C-3PO can talk,
Yeah.
but R2D2 goes beep, boop, 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 boop. And
Well,
only like half the people can understand him.
It is a multilingual society. That is his droid language. I mean, because everyone speaks that language. Like, Luke understands it.
Yeah, Ryan.
I mean, he doesn't have to speak
Learn
Galactic
another
Basic.
language, loser.
Yeah, you watch this in subs or dubs.
You guys, well, I'm just like, we're talking
Yeah.
about Mecha. Both of you guys had to have seen Zoids on Cartoon Network, right?
Yo.
Wait, Zoids? Whoa.
Yeah, so I mean, that's like a Mecha. Gundam.
You just said a word.
If you watch Toonami, Gundam, you should have seen that.
Gundam
you know?
was sick.
I
You have a
didn't see
favorite
Gundam.
Huh.
Somebody made me watch Gurren Lagann.
Gurren Lagann?
I only got like 2 episodes into that. I couldn't.
Okay, all right. We got to start doing shit for the normies, guys. This is getting a little too hardcore and in the cut. But Jace, real quick, what's your favorite robot? Just
Man, I would probably say one of the T-Rex or Raptor. I'm either going with
those are animals.
is Mobile Suit 1. Probably a Gundam. Gundam are pretty cool.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, the Gundam was pretty sick. Did you see Ready Player One where the guy turns into a Gundam and starts fucking shit up?
Yeah.
It was pretty sick. Guys, robots are cool. And now that we've kind of flexed our credentials a bit, I think we've got plenty of nerd street cred to start talking about this dang movie.
Please.
Yeah, you're going to need to give me 10 minutes to discuss Evangelion as a whole.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I think it is.
Because also, I'm going to want every sentence you say, there's going to be a follow-up question.
No, I've got to go through the history of it so that we understand.
But I also
Evangelion.
want to have a conversation with you two
Right.
about what the plot of this movie is and what the background behind before this movie starts. So I don't want that to be too like repetitive or like unorganic as well.
Yeah, maybe we can start with how we reacted to this film, just independently.
You know, I'm just going to say that I spent like 2 fucking hours doing history and research on this. And if you're going to tell me you don't want me to give a spiel, I'm going to be upset that I literally ingested any of this content for you.
Okay, all right. You know what?
Okay, no, it's fair. It's fair. It's fair. It's totally fair.
Because honestly, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, okay. Well, this is good. This is good to include. Actually, I think
Right.
Ryan, you should say this on mic.
Yeah.
Should we?
Okay,
let's
so what
cut-
I
let's
was
cut back
saying,
in.
Ryan, is I'm fine or discussing the movie. However, I just have, because of what I was looking at, a little bit more information on just the backstory of Evangelion and like
That's
what
good.
happens leading up to the movie, and some other facts that are like, if you were to really give, I guess, this movie, if you weren't watching it independently or watching it part of the series, and giving it a critique, you know, it would. I guess some of that information pertains.
No, then let's totally. That's why I wanted to clarify whether you're doing that or you were going to explain to the audience exactly what happened in the movie. But also, I think we need to make it clear that this isn't like a standalone movie too. And like,
What?
Holy shit! What?
and for people who don't know, you know, or like have no fucking clue what we're going to be talking about, because this is definitely the most out there thing we've ever watched.
Yeah, I mean, imagine I've never done this, dropping in on a series, like 27 episodes in. All of the character development and shit has already happened, the intros and everything. And you're watching the last 2 motherfucking episodes.
Yeah. And okay, well, let's get on. Because like that's so an opposite of what I do. I've seen random episodes of shows here and there, but like it's different when it's something that doesn't have this much plot. And also like this is a cherished TV show by a lot of people, partially because of this movie. And for me to just randomly watch this movie, like I might have hit a point of no return. And the interesting thing from my perspective right now, and I don't want to talk about this too much, but like there's no going back. There's like no going back to watching the rest of the series without knowing how it ends.
It's ruined. It's ruined for us.
We can't. It's like someone spoiling. Remember when we had the spoiler wars?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the great spoiler wars when we would watch movies first and spoil it for the rest of our friends, and it just became
it's
like a
that.
horrible,
Like that happened to me, but that happened by me watching the movie.
I mean, Ryan, you're always a big proponent of going in cold, and in this way, this is the most cold.
I've never been more fucking cold.
No. Fucking lifeless.
Oh. And I've even seen like a lot of it, and like I might as well not have.
Yeah. It's like when you're watching like Lord of the Rings and you just watch the last scene in the volcano where Frodo's fighting with Gollum over the ring. And
you're like,
just did not.
This is a movie about volcanoes.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening up till this point. Precious fan, new listener, the GBGBs. I don't know that you gave the spiel earlier.
We should give the spiel.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If you're new here, obviously, if you're not new here and you've heard this 20 times, sorry, skip ahead 30 seconds. We review 10 movies of a particular theme. That could be an actor. It could be end of the world movies like we are currently doing. And we rate it based on how we think it is as a movie, an enjoyment, how well was the film made, and then on an apocalypse or a disastometer, how apocalypsy it was, so to speak, in this season. And while I chose this movie to put on the Wheel of Chaos antagonistically, because it checks the boxes, and it's also technically the last 2 episodes of a TV show. I'm sorry.
I'm so glad we did this, and it's interesting, Ryan, because like we can experience Neon Genesis in a way that almost no one has. We can never undo this. The show, we can never have the experience that the creators wanted us to have, and we watched the last first. I don't know if a lot of people have done that, and I think we have interesting perspectives to show people because like we're watching this in a vacuum, truly a vacuum.
Yeah,
just and that's what we watched.
And I went on Letterboxd after I watched the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't read a word beforehand, and one of the top reviews is like, under no circumstances whatsoever should you think about watching this movie if you haven't seen and understand the entirety of the series.
What I thought about this specific show, and that there was a movie of. So the reason I got to Evangelion is I was like, we don't watch many animated movies. We've seen, 2 before this. And I thought, are there any end of the world or apocalypse animated movies? And then this one popped up. And then I went to the letterbox and saw how highly it was rated. And then I clicked on the rating that said exactly what you just said. And I was like, we've got to watch it.
I had no clue.
Yeah, and it was unique. And you know what? This was also sitting on my Netflix queue to watch next to Neon Genesis Evangelion. And I just happened to see this one before that one on my Netflix watch list. So I actually checked off a box there. And so now the list is a little shorter. And, before we get into the discussion, I feel like we can put a little disclaimer here. I think it would probably be good to do. We're going to be kind of talking about things that are like sexual in nature because of what's in the movie, things that might be pretty inappropriate and might be triggering to some people. So please take appropriate care before going into that, because we are going to have to probably address at least some of that because it was a lot. I think we were kind of texting about it earlier too in this movie, but just wow, like this movie was fucking nuts to go into without knowing anything. We talked about that Lord of the Rings analogy earlier. It's like the back half of this movie is Gollum falling into the volcano.
Yes, dude. Like for 45 minutes.
And you don't know what the ring is. You don't know what the volcano is. You don't know why that weird little man looks like that. Like, there's so many questions. There's so much that is painted around this whole situation.
Oh.
And then the first part is like, I feel like Bilbo and Sam reconciling their friendship, and you're like, what? Are they friends? Did they grow up together or something? Like, I don't know. Why is he caring, and what happened to him? And that's what I think is really great. And the fact that this was released as a movie in theaters is fucking wild to me. In 1997, a very different world too.
This was made because the writer for the anime, I guess the manga too, of the 26 original episodes, the last 2 being the finale, the fans had a severe, vehement reaction to the ending.
And that ending was not this one.
The ending was not this one.
Okay.
So much so that they went back and decided to redo it and re-release it theatrically like this. So there are technically 2 endings.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
You could watch episode 25 and 26 and it ends quite differently for our main character. And
I have a quick question just to kind of feel that out. Is the alternate ending maybe a little bit more digestible?
I think if you were to watch the last 2 episodes like we just did, no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, were they like more obtuse, more weird fucking goo balls?
I think the budget was pretty tight for those episodes, so like
Right.
there was less. I think when you get into the second part of this movie, there's a lot of really sporadic and like crazy art as we see like the dissolution of self. They had that in episode 25 and 26, but it was quite a bit more bare bones. It wasn't anywhere near a Psycho.
Okay.
But you're still within the mind of the main character. Yeah.
Can we get a synopsis? Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, for the audience who may not know what happened in this movie, can you maybe tell us the premise of the series?
Yeah, do you want to premise
Yeah, so what's this series about, Jay?
Give us a little bit of background so
Okay.
the audience isn't so confused.
I tried to practice this. Denali,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for your fingers and your macros because you're gonna probably when you get through this. But
That's okay. Yeah.
so Neon Genesis Evangelion. The story, broad story, is that way back when super advanced alien species was dying, and they put all of their energy into creating these things that would go to planets and would create life. They were called seeds. Under no circumstance were the 2 opposite types of seeds supposed to be on the same planet. So at first on Earth, the seed of Adam crashed into Earth. The being inside of that Adam created the angels, which are if you were to watch the show, they're the big alien-esque creatures that the humans have to fight.
Okay.
At some point after that, the seed for Lilith crashes into Earth, which is not supposed to happen.
Okay, that's bad. I gotcha.
They're not supposed to be on the same planet. A failsafe occurs in the Adam seed, the first one to hit, which kind of puts them into hibernation. Lilith, which is that big blob that's on the cross in the movie, creates humans. So first seed made big aliens, second seed made humans. But then humans developed like we did on Earth naturally, like right now, like if it was in our world.
Wait, sorry. The blob on the cross, wasn't that Adam?
No.
'Cause wasn't the guy talking to them as Adam?
That's
And then-
Lilith is under in the moon base, the moon,
Yeah.
black moon under Tokyo.
Okay.
Adam,
The follow-up questions might actually make things more confusing.
yeah.
I'm like, who?
Okay.
What?
Is this
So-
in the future?
2 large beings, big aliens, Adam,
Yeah, okay.
humans, Lilith,
Okay.
not supposed to coexist. Humans develop as normal. At some point, people find in Antarctica, they find the remnants of this first seed of Adam, and they start studying it like humans do. And what leads this world into post-apocalyptic area is a human decides that they need to make contact with Adam. When they do that, it awakens him. It awakens those first big angels, and then causes a cataclysmic event on Earth.
Oh, okay.
So they're able to get a sample of Adam back to Japan, where they have the Lilith one. So after that explosion, the big aliens, the big angels are waking up. The whole southern hemisphere of the Earth is destroyed. It's just the northern hemisphere that's like barely left normal. Billions of people died.
Fuck.
At this point, because the angels are waking up, society's like, oh, we have to fight them. We'll use the DNA and the technology we've found from researching these people to make the Eva, to make the Evangelion units. And the robots in this, the mechas, are big organic creatures. They're big
Okay,
organic
that's why they
beings
have organs. Okay.
made from
yeah.
the DNA of Adam.
All right, that's pretty dope. Okay.
And then from there, it's for what episode 1 to 20 whatever. It's Shinji in his Eva fighting and killing the angels. And really, the broad stroke of the show is that a big bad government organization wants to destroy all the angels to make them weak, and then they want to combine Adam with Lilith because it'll make an event where humanity dissolves, like we see in this movie, and it'll remove human strife and misunderstanding and will be uplifted. So
when they say dissolve, that means like into a singularity, right? Not just all die. Like they
well,
all
in this
become
movie,
like
they literally did that.
It becomes a like singular consciousness where everyone is connected. Yeah.
Okay.
And other neat facts that I saw. So the robots, the big mechas, the Evas, are to be piloted. They had to have like a soul put into them, and in each case for each one of the pilots in the show, the main characters, it's their mother. So Eva 01, the one that Shinji's mom is in, his mom's soul was absorbed into the juice of that.
Oh,
and then,
that's why that one girl was talking to her mom. I did miss like some backstory.
You didn't miss anything because you didn't watch the show, but Ava 02, the orange one with Asuka in it, there was an American program, and they were making an Eva, and her mother was a scientist on it, and it absorbed half of her soul. And then the mom was like, tried to kill Asuka, and you see like a flash of that and when they're in the thing. So yeah, part of her mother is in that suit as well. So yeah, you can't use the machines, the first like 5 of them, unless their mom's been absorbed into them. And
holy shit.
And basically every single one of the major players in this movie wants to start the human instrumentality project. And that's just turning everybody into goop and making them one big.
So that's why the pilots are all teenagers, is that they had to have a mother, like, be a sacrifice.
They have to, the pilot...
So you can't have, like, a 40-year-old dude who's, like, trained because his mom... This is deeper into the lore. So each one of the short things of it, the creatures have this field, this energy field. It's called the AT field.
Right. Okay, yes. Okay.
And to be able to create that and fight against them, the pilot of the mech has to be able to synchronize with it. And the only way they were able to find out, I believe, for the pilot to synchronize with the robot was that it had to have a soul, and it was best if that soul was connected to him. So
okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's good.
So, yeah, the AT field was mentioned. The AT field and the anti-AT field was mentioned a few times in the movie, and that is just not clear.
Is that just like hand wavy stuff? That's kind of like that.
Kind of like when we were kids and we were playing in the driveway or something, and someone's like, "I've got a force field. I've got an anti-force field."
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Cool. That clears some things up, Jace, because, I mean, Ryan, you probably had a similar reaction, because you are slammed into a dense lore wall.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you get it. They're throwing terms. There's all sorts of questionable imagery here with, like, these, like, monolith government meetings, and, like, they're saying all sorts of shit about angels.
There's also, like, one guy whose entire job is to tell everybody what the power levels of the robots. Which I was like, if I ever get stuck in an underground bunker... I want that guy's job. So that does help a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
But like, what I want to talk about with this movie is why it's a movie and why it's not a movie. Because normally, even if you're doing an entry in a series, you have this sort of the way of like the thing that weighs on you is the dialogue. And the plot of the movie has to give a little bit about the previous movies.
Yes.
And that, like I've been watching all the Harry Potter movies right now. And number 6 doesn't just open up and be like, oh yeah, Harry Potter's a giant space lizard. And like, there's a little bit of an explanation to everything, Ron's like, remember last year when this happened? But in a series, it's different because like episode 25 can be entirely like self-contained, or it can pick up. This really seems like it picked up after a monumental episode. So yeah. There's no kind of intro, and it just kind of like, it's not a standalone movie. There's no other way for this type of experience to be successful. Like, an hour and 20 minutes of footage normally is either you randomly take it out of the center of a longer piece of, media, like a series. Mm-hmm. Or it's a standalone project like a movie. And this was not a standalone project like a movie. So the pacing and the character arcs and everything was not important to this thing that we watched.
Yeah.
It was only focused on resolving things.
Yeah, you articulated that well, Ryan, because I was also trying to put my finger on that, where I was like, is there a way that I could catch myself up on this in the movie? Like, it would have to have like an hour of exposition, because it drops you right in. And I think my initial response was like, okay, cool. This is like a Dark Souls thing where I can just like, there's a big world, and maybe through context clues, I can figure out what's happening here.
Well, okay, so that's the other thing to me is like, on the one hand, the fact that this is just 2 episodes of a TV show does make it a little bit obtuse and a little bit hard to digest. However, the other part is just like the sheer audacity of this, and it's not being controlled by a movie studio who's saying, okay, make it accessible to the public. We want this to do well in theaters, so it's got to be... middle America has to be able to understand this. No, the person whoever made this has free, complete control over the creative process and doesn't have to waste any time doing anything they don't want to do. And then within that would be true for any series that had a green light for the last 2 episodes to get wacky. But the way this specific piece of media was presented to us, it eschewed everything about storytelling. Like, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. It was like an hour and a half long music video because there's no pacing, there's no story arc, and there's no foreshadowing. Like, you can't say, oh, I get what they're doing here. They're saying that because it's going to be important later. And I'm going to be like, oh, look at this kid. He's kind of down in the dumps. By the end, he's going to be a badass. Like, there's no way to predict what the next 5 seconds, what the next 5 minutes of the show are going to be like. And when you watch the first, 15 minutes, you have no clue about how it's going to end. Like, there's literally no breadcrumbs. There's nothing to pick up on. It's just like whatever is happening is like literally happening right now. And that way it reminds me a lot of real life. You're going around your life. You're not able to predict what's going to happen next. You're just kind of in the moment. And that was really cool.
There's no arc really here, or at least within these 2 episodes we watched that's presented as a movie.
It's in the movie section. You put some respect on its name.
I mean, Ryan, you talked about the first 15 minutes of this movie. We don't have to say exactly what happened in the first 15 minutes of this movie, but there was something that happened. Like I texted you guys.
Minutes is generous.
Yeah. When we first picked this movie, I was like, I'm going to glance at Wikipedia. I glanced at it and I sent you guys the screenshot. And folks at home, since we're not going to explicitly say what happens, but it was extremely jarring and I was horrified. I can't believe this was in the movie. It's the second sentence in the Wikipedia plot summary. All right. If you really want to know what it was, it's definitely something sexual involving the main character. And I could not fucking believe my eyes and ears. Why would you start a movie like this?
Yeah. And like, you made this joke earlier, but like, it's the second sentence in the Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
And that directly correlates to its placement in the
movie. In
the movie. So like you can't be like, oh, that I'm gonna guess when that's gonna happen and I'm gonna close my eyes. You can't do that.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's so like insanely problematic. Like, and I know like there was a fan backlash with this too. Like people were calling it like one of the most unpleasant experiences in anime history. And even then we're talking about the free reign of this director. What the fuck were you thinking, dog? Like, why would you put this in your mecha anime? Like, there is no circumstance.
And then this is, I think, the breaking point where we need to talk about the fact that we're 3 late 20s dudes in America reviewing this. And this is an anime. It's written and produced for 14-year-olds in Japan. And a lot of it is fan service. And that's where we're going to come in and we're going to critique it. And we're going to say, wow, what the fuck? But there were probably a lot of people, and then problematically, like, older people who have fed the characters. Let me make this clear right now. The characters in this movie, because we haven't really talked about the actual premise of it, are 14-year-old and younger, canonically around 14-year-old mecha suit pilots that were trained as children and put through essentially war with this alien race. And, you know, the series goes through them living together and them living their lives, and then we're put into here. So, you know, older people that when this came out that were like, that are sexualizing the 14-year-old cartoons, which is a bigger internet argument that we shouldn't have here.
Yeah. No, Jace, I mean, I get you. Like,
I don't know if that was clear.
No, you made a good
what I
point.
was trying to say.
Point.
Yeah.
Like, we are talking about, like, kind of the arcs of teenagers here. But it's like, if you absolutely have to talk about the awkward sexual awakenings of kids, I don't know why you would need to in a show like this, but like if you had to, I think there is a better, more tasteful way to do this. Yeah. I mean, we're also talking about 1997. The people who wrote this are like dudes in their 40s or 50s, and there are aspects, and like I know you guys said something similar on our text chat. It feels like a bunch of old creeps inserting their fantasies into the movie in certain parts. On these like teen girls and shit like that. Well, it's like, why is this in here? Like, I know why. It's because it's the dudes who wrote this, but I was just like, what the fuck, man? Like that just, it shook me out of the movie. And it also hints at conversations around anime. Like, I know this has happened around like when people argue about anime on Reddit and like 4chan or those circles where people talk about like sexualization in anime. I mean, this is 1997. You take a core sample of how women are like, or girls are you know, depicted in anime, you're gonna run into shit like this. And seeing it in a movie like this, I was like, wow, there's no excuse to have this in here. I feel like you could tell a mecha story, it's a deconstruction, without that shit in here.
I think, yeah. I think it's a thin line, like a very fine line to walk. I'm not going to say, because I'm like not sexualizing that scene, right? The impact of it when you take a look at the series as a whole is that our main character, Shinji, uses the two female lead characters. A lot of people online think this as he doesn't treat them with humanity. They're like tools to give him like satisfaction, to build himself up. Satisfaction is a weird, not the word that I think I'm meaning to say in this situation. And the mirror of it is that like the mirror of this scene and in the end of the movie is that he's asking her for help, and then he does something that is absolutely disastrously not okay. And it's really trying to show that. I think the director is really trying to show that, you know, he's not a hero. Like he's the protagonist, but he's despicable. And I made a joke about the hero's journey earlier, and we're at ground zero. And I agree. Yeah, it's like it was a weird scene, and then like putting the nudity in it was likely fan service, and it could have been done a different way, but. I wonder if you take away like how we've come to know and experience like how people sexualize anime, if it could be received differently. If we knew there weren't a bunch of old otakus, could that scene be okay?
And that's
in the
one
movie?
thing is, I mean, it's like I don't really have a problem with any sort of content categorically being shown on like in a movie or something like that, as long as it's not this exact category. Like this is like, you can do all these other things on camera, or it's not really camera in this circumstance, but like, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, it's not an endorsement, it's a movie. This is content that happens in the real world, and they're making a movie out of it. But like, there's kind of one or two ways of approaching that. If you want to approach that sort of topic, like teenagers and romantic like stuff going on and like their sexuality, you can have the characters experience that, just don't show it graphically, and don't show it from like the character's point of view where he's getting, you know, pleasure from this. Like, show it from a literal not point of view way. And then simultaneously, you could just also not do it. You could just maybe just not have that happen at all, and you could make a movie about something else. But yeah, so it's interesting because I tried not to have it color the rest of my viewing experience, but it was difficult because the theme kept coming back up, and that's kind of the one thing that made me uncomfortable, you know. And I have seen the series before, so, and I remember some of the stuff early on, like it's along the same lines, but it never got this far. And that's why I back out of some anime series. Is if there's something weird along these lines. I just don't get it. Like, I understand, and this is what I totally agree with Jace, because like I just don't get it. Because I'm not a 14-year-old boy or someone who's interested in that sort of thing reading or watching this. Like, I'm an adult. I want adult themes that are not the adult in quotation marks.
No, I totally get that. And like, to Jace's point, it does illustrate a character trait about Shinji. You know, as someone who doesn't know Shinji's backstory, I am getting an idea of like what kind of person he is. And obviously, like, yeah, we have issues about how it was presented and all that stuff too. But like, it is interesting to see a main character in a mecha anime act like this, not as a badass hero. You know, that was probably the point, right? Like, he's depressed. He's someone who doesn't want anything to do with this stuff. And he's emotionally just completely vacant and broken. I did think that was a bit interesting. I think just Shinji's character, at least just in what I saw in this movie, though, it was just frustrating to watch just because I didn't have any context, because he didn't have a whole lot of lines. And just seeing him in this context where he's kind of moping and I don't know the reason why, and he's talking about things that he's guilty about and I don't know what he's talking about. I was like, okay, can we just please advance the fucking story?
Do you want me to give you like 2-3 sentences?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so he had to, he mentioned that he killed somebody, and that was another Ava pilot who was, he had to kill the Ava pilot. The other Ava pilot asked him to kill him, so he's feeling guilty about that. And then the events, he's blaming himself for the events that caused... There's that girl, Ray, the one that the father kind of, for whatever reason, is it like a clone he sticks his hand into, and then she like rips the hand off, and then she floats up into the thing. That character in the TV show sacrificed herself to save him, and I think was also a part of putting Asuka into the hospital. So like literally 2 episodes before this,
Jesus
or
Christ.
like 3 or like 5 events that just kind of break his character, and that's why you go straight into him being the way he was. So that's like,
and I wish I had that context. Which is the flaw of seeing this movie like this. But that is interesting, and I think I did get the idea though of like the fact that he's a child soldier and he's dealing with traumas that are beyond our comprehension. And, you know, this poor boy just needs fucking therapy and should not be piloting a tank. And they're like, come on, just kill more people. Come on. Like, they're like slapping him around. And he's like, I don't fucking want to do this anymore. I did kind of feel those scenes.
I think my impression of this movie is really kind of overall kind of vibes, right?
Yeah.
And so thinking about it, I guess I never thought about that very hard. When the humans were on screen and there wasn't like guns going off, I was kind of not paying attention. And so I want to talk about the infiltration scene. Like, there's a war at the beginning, and I was under the impression that the people in the bunker are the good guys, and they're fighting off like alien invaders. And then about X number of minutes come in, they're fighting off other humans. It is like a war, and other humans are trying to kill them because the humans want the aliens to win. And so, like, that was cool. And then I was like, so the people are invading are bad. And they start just straight murking these dudes. And I appreciate this about anime more than anything, and this is why it interests me, is that you can, at least before the advent of this better CGI that we have, you can show really graphic violence. Not that I'm like, oh yeah, graphic violence is awesome, but like, it can punctuate a point and it can serve movies very well and make you feel very strong feelings in a way that, like, I don't feel that many feelings when someone shoots a gun and then there's an edit and then someone gets hit by a fake blood capsule and like, oh,
so sick.
But then when in this, everything is able to be shown because it's all drawings and pieces of paper. So that was really cool. They killed people really brutally, and that was I wasn't really expecting that.
The assault on Nerve was Nerve.
I think Nerve.
Yeah, that was a brutal ass scene, right? People were being executed. There was like a flamethrower, and people were just lit on fire and shit. I was expecting like the government to come in and arrest everybody, but they were just like killing thousands of scientists. I was like, whoa, shit! Like, it was like a siege sequence when this is going down, and that was kind of cool. Like, that was a cool part of the arc. And then seeing that contrasted with like Asuka, who comes out with the second Eva and, has like the 5-minute timer to kill like 20 other Evas, which is pretty sick. That was a pretty sick scene.
Yeah, that was a sick
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the other thing too, is like, even in Pacific Rim, which is, I love that movie so much, but like,
Yeah.
okay, you're watching a computer robot fight like a computer monster, and it's all CGI, which is really awesome, but there's still something kind of missing. And it's what it is the robot like disemboweling things. like it's not just that they can show it now. It's like they show some really graphic ways of killing these monsters. And I am there for it. Like that was so cool. I have never seen someone go that like hardcore, and not just like, I'm gonna punch you and you're going to be knocked out. It's like, no, I'm going to rip your face in half.
Yeah. Her opening salvo, like when she was like, all right, I got 5, like it's like 20 seconds per Eva. Her opening move was ripping someone's throat out and tearing his head off. Like, I was like, damn, this is sick. And, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that one of the things that I think we'll be really maybe missing out on in this, is generally we try to talk about like technique, like film technique. And I think we're going to be, missing a bit of that maybe on animation or we'll talk more about the story because it's a fucking crazy movie. But like when you break down those scenes into how they were actually drawn and you have those key poses and the movement between them. And, we talked about, I think the point I'm trying to make here is that the pace of this movie is insane. It's just like go, 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 because it's the final 2 episodes of a TV show. But like the pacing within the scenes and the pacing of the animation, I think is like phenomenal. And how the scene transitions. And I don't know if you know, there's like, they drew shaky cam. They put shaky cam in that fight. And then they were transitioning really, really readily from like close-up shots of the Eva as it was moving to a backward shot where you can see the full scale of the Evas being huge and fighting to inside the cockpit where she's like whipping around and hair is flying and she's like forcing the robot, and then it moves out to the robot and it's like punching the other robot. And, the fact that that's all animated and all done by hand is just spectacular.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, there's no technical limitations on what they could show because there's no fucking cameras, right? And so they really use that to great effect in this movie because, like, you can show any angle, you can move the camera however you want. And sometimes, like, animation doesn't take advantage of that at all. They mimic an actual camera and you're just, like, fucking watching it. And something like this, sick. Like, I don't know how you would film that in real life.
Watch a really old movie, and the ones that are done well use the camera very purposefully because they're like squeezing blood from a stone. They're like, we got this old camera. If we let light in through this 6 panes of glass that are curved to the certain degree, and we take this photoelectric, chemical paper and we strip it in front of it at a certain speed, it'll look like people are moving. And they are like, they have to be really efficient in the way they do. Everything has to be really orchestrated, and the camera has to be right where it needs to be. And that's not present in something like this. They can just show whatever they want. So in some ways, I totally agree with Jace. Like, it's nice for them to come back and say, like, these are the shots you're used to. This is going to be normal filmmaking shots. But at the same time, maybe they're using those because they're really effective. Like, maybe that's why we do it with cameras. It's because, like, that's a really good way of connecting with the audience. And the filmmakers wanted to give us the same sort of emotions, so they drew it that way. And that's what I really liked, that it felt like a movie. I don't know why. Like, it felt big. Like, that fight just felt so big. And I know this is a kind of a monster of the week show where every single episode is like a new monster and a new fight, but that fight felt really climactic. And I'm imagining that if I knew more about the series, it would definitely feel like, the end fight, the fight of all fights.
Yeah, I agree. There was a lot that visually really worked, like aesthetically worked. I don't know if everything necessarily worked, like as far as even just voice acting for me, or just how certain dialogue was written. There might even be translation issues, to be fair. But just like the narrative of the movie standing by itself didn't necessarily work for me. And like Ryan said, like, this is probably because we're watching this shit in a vacuum. I'm not going to appreciate any of like the other scenes. Like, of course, we liked the fight scene because, in a vacuum, that looks fucking badass. but I'm not going to appreciate any of the last like 40 minutes of just like postmodern image flashing like in the way that I'm supposed to. There's no fucking way. Like,
Right.
And that's what hurt it for me.
For me, so I want to talk about pacing a little bit too, and like story arcs. If you mapped the conflict, because sometimes I do this too if I'm watching a movie, or especially if I'm really, I do this if I'm thinking about a scene in my book, or like I'm thinking about how to outline a project. What I'll do is I'll think of a book or I think of a movie, and I'll try to map the conflict over time. And when does it peak? When does it plateau? When does it kind of have lulls? And you'll find a lot of them are similar. You know, you start with some of the action, you know, because you want to get people interested. And after that, you can kind of tone it down a little bit, and you have a lull, so that, you know, more exposition, character building, you kind of have a base to start with from there. And then in the middle, you need something, conflict. Something's got to happen. Oh no, the main characters are kind of taken off guard by something that, you know, is exciting. And then once again, they have to get ready for the final conflict. So there's another little bit of a lull. And then you have the final conflict, which is usually the biggest peak. And most movies after that will drop down, and they'll have like a end scene, you know, that's kind of calm. But this didn't happen in this movie because that was over 26 episodes. So what we were on, we had a microscope on that thing, and we were only looking at a tiny sliver of it. So it was just bonkers the whole time. And that was really refreshing. And I don't understand why it was compelling to me, because I love oral storytelling. That's like my favorite thing to do. But all my stories follow the same sort of patterns. So why? Like, why can't I just tell a story that's bananas from the get-go and bananas at the end? Like, it was really effective to me. And it made me kind of re-examine storytelling and how to map conflict out. What if there was a movie that was a standalone? I can think of one movie, and it's like Crank 2, where Jason Statham is running around and he literally is powered by electricity. And he has to like get shocked by a car battery to like pump himself back up. Like, that's kind of what this movie was like. And I'm sort of re-examining how templated I thought movies needed to be.
That's a cool point, Ryan. Like, I never thought about it, examining it as like, you know, what is the arc of this movie and kind of what the pace is compared to other movies. It's kind of like breaking out of the 3-minute like pop song in the 50s. You know, what happened in the 70s. People are putting guitar solos in weird spots or dragging a song out for 8 minutes.
Exactly.
Once they broke out of the structure, things could get interesting. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is an interesting way to approach art. So take that, anime fans. Maybe we did something interesting and cool. I do think we should probably get into the climax of this movie.
Yeah, I didn't actually describe what happens in this movie at all, just the background.
But
then we've been talking way too much. We've been...
There's no background.
Yeah.
Because the end sequence is wild, and I think we could like easily summarize it, because a lot of it's wordless and just visual. It's kind of like the end of Space Odyssey. You know,
that's a good example. That's a really good example.
Shinji just comes out. He manages to get into his mech suit. Should I even be the one who's explaining this? Because I don't know what the fuck this movie is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Shinji is put in front of his mech suit, which can't move because it was sealed with some polymer of some kind. And then the spirit of his mother activates the suit, breaks out, and lets him get inside of it. What the sequence that follows is his mind just instantly is breaking at this point. And the event, the Human Instrumentality Project, has technically already been successful. Because deep down in the cave, a copy of this character absorbed, that was made from Lilith, absorbed a piece of Adam from the dad's hand, which is something we weren't shown in the movie. And then she combined with it. So that caused the third event. So at that point, already humanity was going to turn into Tang. Was going to turn
like the drink,
goo.
the orange. Yeah.
It was a big Tang ad.
Yes,
it was a Tang
big
ad.
Super Bowl spot.
He goes crazy. He becomes the tree of life.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
There's this crazy scene. He floats up into space. There are a lot of crosses. He's got wings. There are Hebrew symbols everywhere. And then human instrumentality happens. Everyone starts dissolving. And really what we get is Shinji within his own mind, kind of confronting himself, coming to terms with what's happened over the last 26 episodes or this movie. And the key players, again, wanted this human instrumentality to happen for specific reasons. The government wanted it because they wanted to elevate human race, like a forced evolution. Shinji's dad wanted it because he wanted to be reunited with his wife. It was a very selfish act. What it came down to is that Rei, that clone character, I think kind of put it in Shinji's hands to decide what happens, whether or not human instrumentality or the end of the human race as we know it comes to fruition. And we get the second episode of this, the 45 minutes of craziness of him in his own mind, figuring his shit out, comes down to he decides that the people on Earth that want to live in that kind of their own utopic living can, because it's a way to combat loneliness and to remove barriers. But in this movie, Shinji decides that part of being human is being alone and the interpersonal conflict that we have with each other. And it's like, you can either be in the goop, in the HIP, or you can be outside of it. So he goes crazy, and then he ends up on post-apocalyptic Earth. God, I don't know, just kind of half.
No,
of
that made sense. That made sense. No, it's that's good. What was with those like SpongeBob-esque like real world moments?
Dude, I made that same reference. No, dude, yes. Because this morning, let's be real clear, Julie did not finish this movie with me.
Yeah, that's
fair.
She got out of there real quick. But so I said, about an hour into this movie, they had a total beginning of the SpongeBob movie like segment where, remember when the pirates are like, we got 2 tickets to go see SpongeBob the movie. That's literally what happened. It shows a movie theater of people presumably watching this movie. And I know that's not what actually happened, because that's impossible, because of this. Anyways, I was like, how did they have that technology in 1997 to show the actual theater? But I'm realizing that I just
turn the camera around.
Maybe turn the projector around. Maybe I misinterpreted something. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they were listening to the performance of Come Sweet Death, the song that's played during the what I called his dissolution of self, or when he goes insane and we see the real world imagery.
That song, I know it's like an anime trope, like playing like a 90s kind of like neo soul jazzy thing over a dramatic scene. It just did not work for me. It was kind of like a tonal mess. Listening to like this
for me.
I want to say real quick.
Yeah.
This movie hit hard. Like this, I am loving it. Like, I don't know why. I was expecting a movie and I didn't get that. And that's awesome. Like, I'm here for it.
Well, in this season, I think we've encountered a lot of very basic color by numbers or paint by numbers movies. This was not that for sure. This had a flavor to it. During those Shinji scenes where they're showing like domestic flashbacks, weird sequences that I think are hypothetical too between him and Asuka, and then it just seemed like every character was having some kind of epiphany or realization every 10 minutes. It was kind of like exhausting for me to listen to. It sounded like a bunch of therapy summarizations for everyone, and I was like, okay, like why is this in here like this? I guess he was supposed to kind of come to terms with his own existence and his reality. I just think the way it was presented was a little like awkward and exhausting.
I think you're supposed to. I don't know that he came to. It's hard. I watched this and I texted you last night that I wasn't really ready to go to bed because I don't really think that I was prepared to like psychoanalyze this. This is something that you could probably watch a few times.
Oh, totally.
I don't know if he came to terms, with himself. Like I don't know that he came out of the thing that he did a better person, which I said earlier, like in the beginning of the film, he's seen asking Asuka for help and then does something terrible. In the end, he's in the kitchen, he asks for help, and then he's, chokes her. And then
who knows?
Who
knows what that could possibly mean?
It's just like,
Yeah, so that's the thing, is like, it's difficult for me to discern the difference between what's happening on the screen and what's happening in the timeline of the movie. Because a lot of it was dreams and like fantasies and stuff. So I was like, but that girl was alive, but this is the flashback and he's killing her in the flashback. So this must be a dream, but then he does it again later. Was that also a dream?
And everything when that song is playing is all in his mind. It's none of it's like a reconstruction. None of it's a flashback. Just to let you, so he's like, I think it's supposed to be him confronting how he sees those characters. And how he perceives other people as, not giving him gratification or something. I don't know.
His depiction of every other character is like that of a flawed teenage boy who has serious main character syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something I kind of appreciated, in that too many movies want their main character to be someone who's likable and approachable and, relatable. And hopefully, if a teenage boy is watching this series or this movie, they're not viewing him as like, someone who is relatable. And we've talked about this before, where we'll see a movie that's made in a different decade, and it's not super clear that the director thinks that what the main character is doing is bad. In this movie, I think it's a little bit more clear that the director thinks that this is bad. But I'm not sure how a 14-year-old boy would actually take it. And so that's maybe one critique, is like, if you make the content itself amoral, but the message is obfuscated, your conscience might be clear because you say, oh, yeah, the character was amoral. I didn't mean any of those things. But some people who watch the movie might. And yeah, I'm not a 14-year-old boy, thankfully. And so I can say, yeah, I really like this movie. And the implication is not I identify with the main character. But if I was a 14-year-old boy and I was like, oh yeah, I really like this movie, the implication might actually be that I see myself in him.
That's a good point, Ryan. Like, I did have the similar notes in here, like where certain people might internalize the wrong things in this movie. Like,
that's a really great way of saying what I just said in like 5 words.
No, no, but I mean, you elaborated on it, because like, you see this with fans of like Fight Club or American Psycho, where the wrong type of mindset is latching on to those movies. And even in this movie, there's a scene where Shinji is coming out with the Eva 1 module, or whatever you call it. And he's looking pretty badass, and they're like, oh my God, it's the devil incarnate. And he's like mentally wrecked. And it's zooming in on like this insecure boy's face as this badass devil incarnate about to unleash his wrath. Like, I feel like some kids might get the wrong idea from this. And obviously, like, anime is filled with insecure men who love this type of shit. I had those thoughts too going into this movie, and I don't even know if what the creator's intentions were, honestly. Like, this was the 90s. This was like peak Gen X rage, like, so who knows? It was weird. My main note with that whole sequence, just all of that together, I was like, boy, I hope somebody understands what the fuck is happening here, because it's a lot. Guys, I think we should probably get into our meters.
I think that's a good idea.
We're in deep with this.
Before we move on from that, can I note that the two surrounding dialogues of Shinji in the first and the ending sequence are "I'm so fucked up," I think, and the ending one is "disgusting." And it really, I mean, it does really right there say to you, your character's bad. Obviously, not everybody's going to take it that way, but I don't think
I totally
don't
agree.
think the director or the writer is like, he should be doing this.
No, I absolutely agree, and that's why I kind of feel comfortable, even though that content is in there. I feel comfortable being like, yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah. So what was the deal with that? Because Asuka is alive, right? And she's basically.
I think the general thought is that her character is strong-willed enough that her character would have chosen not to stay within the human instrumentality project within the third impact or whatever the fuck they call it.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
know, man.
Jesus
I'm sorry now.
Christ.
I feel like we've been talking a lot of stuff, and I'm like, well, actually.
Yeah, you've been actuallying us quite a bit.
I think there's people foaming at the fucking mouth right now. People who are actually deep in the lore of this IP.
They're probably actuallying me too.
They're like screaming at their radio box right now about this. You guys think this movie would be better with Transformers in it? Like Beast Machines and stuff?
Yeah, I think Michael Bay would have been an overall, improvement. They would have sold more tickets. Let's be real clear.
Yeah, I think
from a Suits standpoint, this Michael Bay would have been the superior choice to direct this. Like, show him, maybe pull a Alex Garland and like show him the original series once, and then just let Michael Bay have complete creative control. Yeah.
Wait, show him Neon Genesis once,
Yeah.
not Transformers, right? But then put Transformers in.
And then be like, Michael Bay, go creative control. He's like, okay, step 1, Transformers.
Transformers is in this. Fast and Furious is in this too.
And also Bad Boys.
And Bad Boys is in this too. And they're all gonna fight the goo monster. Okay, let's get into what do we call it, Ryan? It's Apocalymeter. Apocalymeter.
Depends on who you ask. Our guests think otherwise.
Yeah.
Freaking. Our guests said disastometer, and then Ryan, you called it the disastometer afterwards after going on a rant about calling the apocalymeter.
This is how easily susceptible I am to ideas. You meet someone at the public market out here, and they start talking about the conspiracy theories. I'm the person that stops.
Do you want to tell our audience what is this dang thing?
Yeah. So I mean, Jace already said it a little bit like an hour ago, but we're gonna rate movies how well they fit with what we think a disaster movie should be, an end of the world movie. So, you know, that totally means that we don't have to only watch by the numbers disaster movies. We can watch ones that are edge cases. And last week we had Annihilation, and that was really cool, but it wasn't really an end of the world movie like what you think of. And that's one thing I don't like is like when people say that's not a this. Like one time in this I had this class talking about science fiction and I got college credit for it. And
Sick.
It was literally about science fiction. And I brought up Dune. And this one guy in the class was like, stop bringing up Dune. That's not science fiction.
What? No, that's science fiction, dog.
And
Did you read a different Dune?
And simultaneously, I'm like, even if you don't think it's science fiction, don't say, don't bring it up. Explain why the science fiction elements in it are not like relatable to the whole genre. Like that's a discussion in of itself. Like, so that's what we're doing. We're not watching 10 out of 10 disaster movies. We're watching a whole gamut. So with that being said, very longly and ranty, I have no clue. I gotta say, this was the most apocalypse of apocalypses because it checks
pretty up there.
It checks every box. It checks, like, from an apocalypse standpoint, it checks already happened because a zombie apocalypse, you could have a movie that occurs entirely in post-apocalyptic. You know, you could have, like, 12 Monkeys, which occurred post-pandemic. So this movie, the apocalypse had, Jace mentioned, I did not catch this, that, like, half the Earth was destroyed before this movie started. So, check.
That's fucking crazy.
Then, of course, everybody got turned into blood or / goo. And then like something about stigmata or something. But yeah, the blood like went into a space being. And so that was like pretty hardcore. I don't know. But it doesn't check the stereotypical apocalypse movies where like Roland Emmerich, Day After Tomorrow, giant tidal wave, you know, knocking down the Statue of Liberty or a rogue satellite. Like it doesn't have that stuff. But man, I kind of wish those movies had this stuff. So
yeah,
I gotta go with a 7 because it's still really freaking awesome. And if you want to see a bunch of people die in like 3 seconds, watch this movie. But at the same time, if you want to see like, you know, Alexis jump a 200-foot gap of a glacier that's being divided by the moon's gravity, like, don't watch this movie. That was a literal scene in the movie Moonfall.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. So what was your score, Ryan?
7.
A 7. Okay, a 7. I think you have some good points there. As far as my apocalymeter goes, I mean, so I gotta say, the world-ending premise is definitely unique. I don't think we're gonna get another one of these this season. Another one of these situations.
Also watch Shark Boy versus Lava Girl.
Yeah, Shark Boy. I haven't seen that movie. It could have been happening like this. The humans definitely did turn into gross goo puddles while the naked ghost teen oversaw the mecha crucifixion. So that did happen.
First time actually this season, surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah, the first time that's happened. I'm sure some birds exploded in there somewhere in the mix too. What was kind of the sitch with animals? Didn't see a single animal.
One of those Evas kind of like turned into a bird and then exploded.
Yeah, so I think that checks off my bird box here. TM. Let's see here. Staying behind to blow up something. I don't know if that really checks the box. Shinji did kind of stay behind with sacrificing
the girl
himself.
with the elevator.
The girl with the... Oh, she did stay, but she got... but she wasn't triggering anything, you know?
She pushed the elevator button.
Somebody did try to... The lady in the white trench coat tried to blow something up, and then she was like, what? And her device got overridden.
That's close, but it's not like the major character being I'll stay with the ship, you know? So it's not going to count here, okay? And what I'm also thinking about is, like, if you know somebody... You know, to Ryan's point, who loves Roland Emmerich movies, okay? A complete nutcase. If they love disaster movies, okay, would you recommend, like, hey, you like those movies? You want to see End of Evangelion? The thrilling conclusion to this 90s anime that you've never seen? I think you're going to love this. I don't think so. So for that, I think, I'm struggling here because the end of the world did happen, but I don't think this is an end of the world movie. I'm going to give it a 5, I guess. I'm gonna give it a 5. All right, it's right in the middle here. There's strong forces.
You were gonna say 4, weren't you?
I was gonna say 4, but there's strong forces.
You were surprised that I gave it a 7.
I was. In either direction, there's just a lot of good points here. I don't know. I don't know. This is very apocalypse themed, but this ain't one of those movies. 5. I'm baffled.
I think I don't have the because I sat down to try and compact as much of the lore into my head as I could in the last 2 hours, that I really have the benefit of being able to just kind of think about the movie as a whole too much anymore. So I think the things I'm going to subtract points for are that we didn't have any of the big angels that the TV show has. You know, I thought we were going to have more of that kind of existential threat. But I do think it was interesting that the government wanted to cause this event. They wanted the human instrumentality because they wanted to, you know, reduce the loneliness of humans and bring them all together and collectively kind of cause that. So, like, obviously, the government being involved and being a problem is something we've seen in all these. So knowing what I know now about the series and about kind of what I guess they were shooting for that wasn't really explained in the movie, I still got to give it an 8, I think.
Okay.
All right, an 8.
Didn't see that one coming, did you, Denali?
I guess I didn't have a strong dog in this race.
Yeah, I think it should have been longer, and it could have let me retroactively come back and give it. I think I want to give it a 7 because I would agree that the volume was like of things that make it seem like an apocalypse are tremendously low. It's more kids screaming than listen, if you don't get out there right now, everybody's going to turn into goop.
Yeah. Okay. So can I go into movie meter because I have no idea what to say, so it's going to be a rambling, incoherent mess?
Oh, please.
Okay, so now rating it on a scale of how good of a movie is it, separate from the other scale. Also, / how much I liked it. I have no clue. I literally don't know what, and I don't know. This is the first movie I've actually watched and not rated on Letterboxd because I don't know what to rate it. I don't know what's fair. And I don't want someone to be like, well, if you don't think this is a 10 out of 10 movie, then you're a dumbass, like, who doesn't understand the cultural, like, Japan society in 1997. And, like, fair. But also, it's so unique to me. If I had a larger sample size of similar pieces of media that I could compare it to, I could maybe start to develop a ranking. But I've watched thousands of movies, and I haven't watched any of them that are like this. So thinking about like TV shows or like climactic episodes of TV shows, there's only kind of one that comes to mind, and it's an episode of Twin Peaks: The Return. And if you're a fan of the show and if you've seen it, I think you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's they kind of go through the history of the atomic bomb for no reason, because the show takes place on the Canadian border between Washington and British Columbia. So it's kind of so foreign to me that I can't be like, well, the pacing was slow, so I'm going to dock a point. Oh, the framing or the editing was pretty bad, I'm going to dock a point. I have no clue. I initially it's going to be high. I want to say 8 or 10, but like I didn't take any notes during this movie. I just watched the thing. I was just like, my eyeballs were glued to the screen, and I liked the intermission. It wasn't an intermission. It was the end of an episode, but I thought it was hilarious. It gave me a good time to go get some water. So that's a bonus point. Let's do that. Let's give that one a plus. Yeah, I have no clue. I really don't know. I guess I'm going to go with an 8 because I think if I'm thinking about it, like they could have reached a much bigger audience by compromising a little bit and by giving in to the kind of the what their creative image was versus like what would be successful to an outside audience. And it could be a lot more approachable if they took a few more minutes at the beginning to kind of give a background, and they took maybe a few more seconds here and there to give some expository dialogue. And I can't believe I'm saying that because usually I'm the voice that's like against those things. And I'm saying like, no, creative direction. Like I'm so thankful for this that it like they went so hard and had the audacity to make something like this. But at the same time, I have to be realistic that I didn't understand everything that was happening. Sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. And I'm going to be more open towards movies after watching this, but I can't say that it was like enlightening from like a 10 out of 10. It's going to be my favorite movie of all time standpoint. So I think an 8 is more than fair with the caveat that we're 3 idiots who watch this out of context. And this is probably the first time that's ever happened. 3 guys watch this without having seen the series and then make a podcast episode about it. Like, so
we're pioneers.
I'm going to go with an 8. I don't know, man.
Yeah, this episode is a postmodernist performance art piece of just 3 people who don't understand anime like this. Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair, Ryan. And I do think it's interesting analyzing this from the point of like, this was a redo, like a mulligan for like an episode that failed or like an ending that failed. I kind of respect that, to just take an episode, like take an ending that people didn't like and they were just like, you know what, here's a better one. Just here you go. And then it's universally, or at least within the fan base, seems like it's acclaimed. Yeah, like Ryan, since I haven't seen the series, there's no way I can review this as a conclusion to a beloved show. I have to review it as a piece of art that stands on its own. There's no other fucking way I can approach this. But as far as like this movie goes, I've kind of hinted at it already. The imagery was very cool. The aesthetic kind of surface level was really jiving with me, but the narrative for me was kind of agonizing. I found myself yawning throughout the movie, and this could have easily been a result of me just not understanding the impact of it. This does not really make me want to go back and watch this series, and I think I'm kind of remembering why I didn't continue after the first episode. There was a lot of talk about the metaphysical and happiness as a construct in a way that didn't really feel earned at the end. They might have been, again, building to these convos, but it was presented here just, I thought it was kind of clumsy. It was kind of ham-fisted for me. It didn't quite work. I think maybe in 1997, this was pretty cutting edge. Like, I think people were watching this and were like, oh, yes, this is very, like, intellectual and pretty fucking crazy. But I think for me, this maybe be like a Beatles or a Seinfeld effect. I've seen so many things that are influenced by this genre and by this series that going back and seeing it, I'm not super impressed by those elements anymore. You know, considering all of this, considering the problematic stuff we talked about earlier that took me out of the movie, that perpetuated the whole movie, talking about kind of the independent plot points that happened here that didn't really work. The voice acting, like, man, I really want to get behind, like, anime voice acting where it's like very big and it's very expressive, but in this particular movie it did not work for me. I didn't really connect with any of the characters in the way that I wanted to. So considering all this, I'm gonna have to give this movie a 2. Okay, that was where my enjoyment was at. Okay, like I know, and it could be higher if I had the context or if I had watched the rest of the series. But I was honestly running out the clock on this thing. Beyond the superficial aesthetic, nothing about this movie was really working for me. I'll give it credit for the artistic risks it took, but if those risks don't pay off for me as a viewer, like, there's only so much I could really give. So yeah, I mean, I didn't enjoy watching The End of Evangelion, but I don't know if that's even fair for me to say because I'm not it's the audience that's supposed to watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's like, again, it's really obtuse. Coming out the gate with my number, I'd agree with Ryan. It's like an 8. I think where this movie was really missing is that it's like really verbose with really lore heavy and like scientific dialogue. And like in English, they can say like 8 sentences and you'd be like, what the fuck did I just hear? And then you would rewind it. I rewinded it. And then I was like, I think we're having a problem with subtitles, like covering too much of the screen. So I had them off and then I put them on. but the subtitles were from the Japanese version.
Yeah.
So
I noticed that immediately,
so
and I turned them off.
I watched dubbed because I listened to you, Denali, and I agreed at the beginning. It was like reading the subtitles in the dub was, in the sub was tough. But then like I had so much. I think if I was gonna rate this movie in the English version, it would be like a 5. But I went back and I like kind of accepted the fact that I was gonna have to read the subtitles and course corrected, and listened to how the movie was originally mixed in the Japanese. And I think it was a lot better. I think it was absolutely crazy. It was a pretty cool mix of visuals when they have that scene where they're playing "Come Sweet Death" and it's like the real world. There were pictures of paper in the background, and those were death threats that the author received from making
my God.
making the season end the way it did originally. And it was kind of like oh, here you go, but I mean, fuck you. What are you doing? So like people had a really visceral reaction to this. It made $18 million in the box office when it was released.
So is that a lot for a made-for-TV movie? Like, that's probably...
I think that's, yeah.
That many people are showing up. Like, that's pretty good.
So, but above all else, yeah, it was kind of like crazy. I don't really know that, the director of this, the creator of this, is noted as having depression, as creating, like, characters in, like, as pieces of how he sees himself, trying to tackle this loneliness aspect. And, we didn't really get the full picture. But like Ryan, I was like... Besides some of the weird stuff in the verbose dialogue, I was like glued to the screen. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And he's in the playground and it's completely symmetrical and it looks like boobs in the background. And you're like, why are there boobs everywhere in this movie?
Oh, no.
It's like, I don't know. I would actually rate it NAM, not a movie, I think. And then I would give it an 8.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's a good little caveat too, because I feel like there's gonna be people in here who are like, isn't that just like 2 episodes? Like, yeah.
Also, my recommendation is to not watch it.
Oh yeah, that's a different conversation too. It's like,
yeah.
if you haven't been following along what we're saying and been like, yeah, I don't have any reservations about that, probably don't watch it. Like Julie didn't. This is one of the maybe 2 or 3 movies in our 78 movies now that we've watched that she hasn't finished.
Bless Julie. What a warrior. Just enduring all of those fucking terrible movies. Like for not even making content. She's just watching them with you.
She just likes me. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
she just, wow. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, like this is an interesting conversation. I feel like if you're interested, maybe just see the show and then go in. Do not do what we did. Like this was not a standalone movie in any sense of the word. Maybe there might be some made-for-TV movies that are self-contained, like Drake and Josh's Really Big Shrimp. That was like a self-contained art where Drake had like a big hit song, and that was, you knew what was happening.
Oh, Agent Cody Banks movie.
I think one of those 2 people's canceled. So
oh yeah, let's go with the Agent Cody Banks joke.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh God, yikes. Anyways,
Rugrats in Paris. How about that? That's pretty.
Rugrats
safe.
in Paris. Actually, yeah, the Rugrats movies, those are pretty self-contained.
With the orange VCR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are tight movies. So yeah, that was a review of the end of Evangelion, the thrilling conclusion of Neon Genesis. I can't wait to watch the series someday, maybe years from now.
I kind of want to go rewatch it. Yeah.
Maybe a future season.
Maybe just with the
that
sound
I will
off
eject out of
and only watch the robot fights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What if there's a robot fight only like cut?
Yeah. like a GBGB's
RFO.
cut where they keep the robot fights only. So yeah, if you guys have any thoughts about how we reviewed this, keep them to yourself. We don't want to fucking hear them. So
yeah, please don't leave us a 1-star review based only on this episode, because the other like 70 something episodes that we have, like we don't worry, we do our background, we do our homework.
Listen to our other episodes where we discuss other beloved IP, like not The Fifth Element, because we did kind of dunk on that one a little bit, and that one's beloved as well.
Clifford.
Clifford, if you love Clifford, check out our Clifford episode. I'm sure there's a huge overlap of fans. Air Bud, we're a great podcast. So thank you so much for joining us. Let us know your thoughts about the anime in general, though. Like, what do you think about the series? What do you think about the movie when you saw it? Because I'm curious to hear about it too. I'm so glad you guys are here to talk me down from this movie. Because like this movie was insane. So if you guys are feeling the same way, you can listen to this episode and let us know how you feel. I always like receiving your guys' like DMs and stuff. But for now, I believe it's me at the old captain steering wheel.
Oh no!
For next week, right? So we're approaching episode 9 of our series, and what I've been enjoying. At first I was kind of like, you can tell from my previous picks, I was like, okay, stick with the disaster movies because that's what apocalypse movies are. But there's been some wiggle room happening, right? We're doing everything everywhere all at once. We did this movie. We're doing some things that are interesting. And
You're just calling out my shit movies.
Jace is derailing this podcast, but it's opening my mind. I'm glad we made those diversions because it's it's a way to explore this interesting concept. So my next question is, you guys fuck with Star Trek?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I do fuck with Star Trek.
I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna share my screen.
Oh no, we're gonna be the victims of another fan base.
Let me just share this
baby. Let me click on
real quick. Star Trek First Contact, great movie that I grew up with. I haven't seen it in like 10 years, so that might be a fun opportunity to revisit that. But this other one, Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home, I haven't seen this one. But it's about Kirk going back in time to get some whales to save the Earth.
Yes, I was about to say, is that the whales one?
Silly.
Yes, I want to see that.
So I haven't seen that one. I was between these two. Have you guys seen either of these?
No, I know about the out of fucking nowhere whales thing.
Yeah, because why are there so many whales in the movies that we've been watching recently?
Because that was, what movie was that? The Core?
Yeah.
That's how we started the series.
The whales
season.
are the key. And they could be the key for our next episode, but I couldn't pick between these two, and I thought the fates should decide for us here. For which classic Star Trek movie we should watch? I'm going to spin this thing. I set it to a 3-minute spin. Okay, we got Star Trek First Contact up in here. We're not going to watch the silly whales one. I know I said this movie was good, but don't hold me to that because I haven't seen it in 10 years. So I liked it at a certain point.
Yeah, but 10 years ago, you were an adult. You were legally an adult.
This is
I was an idiot, though. So
the original Star Trek movie or the remake?
Because it has first in the title.
No. So this is, okay. So, there's the original Star Trek cast, right? From the 60s. Then there was the Next Generation in the 80s with Picard.
Yeah.
So this is one of the Picard movies.
Oh, fuck yeah.
There's Star Trek First Frontier. Only 30 people have seen it, and it has 7 reviews.
What in the world? Well, this movie should be on HBO. And this one, they go back in time. They find the first warp drive. It's a fun romp. And it's about the Borg, who are my favorite Star Trek species. And,
See, I don't know any of this stuff, so it's going to be fun.
You will be me next week, Denali, with Star Trek lore.
Yeah, it'll be a tight opportunity to dive into this stuff. And then hope you guys will join us. And, Trekkies, we're coming for you. Oh, and do you guys want to do your GBGBs things you've been enjoying? Do you guys have like a thing that you've been digging this week?
Once again, I thought of something and this week and I forgot.
Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Yeah, Jace, so how do you like Pathfinder?
Love it.
It's awesome.
Because I've heard that you play it, but like...
Not going back to D&D ever. And with the whole OGL thing, all their rules are free online. The book's cool. Okay. It's really easy to transition. Got a rule for just about everything.
I might run a session for some new players.
Jace has been our Pathfinder DM for about 2 or 3 years now, and that shit slaps. With all the weird stuff going on with D&D right now, it might be a good time to make the switch. It's like, imagine D&D with like better combat and more customization, and it's pretty fun. Mm-hmm. As far as my recs this week, I mean, I've been enjoying The Last of Us, the show on HBO. It's fucking scary. I love those video games, and hard recommend for that one. You guys saw my Lil Yachty tab when I was sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Lil Yachty put out an album on Friday. It is weirdly good. It's called Let's Start Here. It's like a psych rock album. Artists that I really like collabed on this, like Mac DeMarco and Alex G and Chairlift. But it's a really cool left turn for him. I would also recommend that. It's super fun.
I've got a little bit of similar to Neon Genesis, this movie, I mean, where you don't have to watch the rest of the series, but the piece of media assumes that you have. Friday the 13th, Part 6. Guys, I am not joking.
Okay.
I unironically enjoy that movie. I think it's...
Yeah.
What do you mean, which?
Which one was the sixth one? So is this with Jason?
Jason's in... Yeah. What are you talking about?
Because isn't there like a whole thing where it's like sometimes his mom and sometimes he's an alien or something?
Yeah. This is Jason. But yeah, so yes, once again, I think it's a good way. The Jason movies are a good way of showing you that you don't have to have the full story to understand like character and motivation and have like a setup and a climax. It's still going to follow the same sort of story arc, you know? But yeah, it's wild, it's fun, and it's the only entry in the series where like you're rooting for Jason. And the people who make it know that. Because about number 4, you start rooting for Jason. Because number 3 was so bad that about number 4, you start rooting for him. But the people who make the movies still think you're rooting for the dumb teenagers. Number 6 is a comedy.
Okay. Hell yeah. All right, Jason 6. Maybe a future episode. Stay tuned. All right, guys. Well, that's our show. Do you guys... I kind of liked our like popcorn advice.
Oh, gosh.
For the end of the world last time. Do you guys want to do one of those? Or do you guys have just a piece to give to our audience?
I like popcorn advice.
All right, Ryan. Start us off with a piece of just like the singularity in this movie, we will be giving a great piece of advice to save humanity.
Congrats.
On
your
Sherlock
DVD
recital.
It's a statement.
So is the image in your guys' brain also someone acting out all the Sherlock Robert Downey Jr. movies?